wanna know you, baby. I don't wanna try it. I don't wanna show you what's blind in your eyes. I don't wanna know you're the machine broke down. What goes around comes around. Because the world is a ghetto. You are a ghetto, and the ghetto must burn from within. At 0 p.m.
Tell us about Driv3r, because we're really big Driver fans. I mean, what's the story about this time?
Well, Driv3r is true to the spirit of the original Driver games, and you're playing the part of Tanner with your partner Tobias Jones, the same characters from the previous 2 games, and your job is to infiltrate a gang of car thieves, and in doing so you end up gaining their trust and working a number of jobs for them, and ultimately your aim, of course, is to bring down the gang, but it involves you doing several jobs for them, stealing cars for them and so on.
What are the scenes of the FMV like in terms of the look and the feel and the style?
We sort of draw from a lot of sources putting the scenes together. We look at a lot of films like Heat and Ronin, some of the classic 70s car chase movies we look at as well. It being an undercover cop story, you know, we go to those kind of sources. We're trying to go for something of a fairly straight, dramatic quality, so it's got to be sort of dark, but it's punctuated on occasions by touches of humour.
Can you tell us about the characters in the game?
They're mostly new characters. We have Tanner and Tobias are obviously carried over from the previous games. There are a couple of other characters that appear as well, Jericho, the hitman from Driv3r, but the other characters in the game are completely new. So we have the boss of the rival gang, and we have a girl in there called Kalita, who's played by Michelle Rodriguez. Ving Rhames actually plays the part of your partner this time.
Mickey Rourke was great. He had a very sort of gravelly voice, added a lot of gravitas to that part of Jericho, who doesn't occur in the FMV very much, but when he does occur, it needs to be important, it needs to feel weighty, it needs to feel like he's a big significant character. So, you know, he carried that off very well. Michael Madsen, I believe, has been interested in playing the part of Tanner for some time, so, you know, he was just itching to get into it.
Can you describe the process of making a video game?
Yeah, it starts out with a basic concept, which can be anything like an idea in someone's head or something written down on the back of an envelope, that kind of thing. That then gets taken and fleshed out and made into a more detailed design spec. But at the same time, we'll be starting to develop technology for the game to actually work, so the renderer, the physics. Once you've got a first playable up and running, it then goes through an iterative process of sort of trying things, seeing how it plays, revise your design, revise your approach. We've been working on Driv3r now for about 3 years. It started out as using the core physics engine that we developed for Stuntman, but we've also been building the assets, the cities and so on in parallel. The team has basically ramped up from about sort of 15, 20 people, now we're up to about 110, you know, in the final stages of the project of putting the missions in and so on.
Describe how your team at Reflections is made up.
Sure, we've got quite a few different disciplines. We've got the programmers, and we could divide those into a few areas, but the main areas you'll have programmers that develop the tools, and the tools allow the artists to put their work into the game. And then we've got game coders who actually write the actual programming for the game. So, you know, we'll have physics engines, we'll have renderer code, we'll have AI code, all of which has to be written. We've then got artists who build the cities, they build all the cars and, you know, all the environments that you see. We also have FMV artists, so all the full motion video that you see in Driv3r is all developed, made here in-house. All the characters are built here, the sets are built, the scenes are shot, the whole thing is put together here. We then have a team of in-game animators, so all the Tanner running around and all that kind of in-game on-foot action that you see. That's all a separate group of people that are just totally dedicated to doing that. We also have sound designers themselves, because the way the missions work all has to be fleshed out in absolute minute detail. And then we have mission scripters who are they use a tool that we've developed here to actually get the missions into the game, which is quite a sort of lengthy process of tweaking and tuning to make sure that, you know, we've got the best playability out of it. Then we also have testing, of course. That's very important towards the end of a project to make sure that it goes out without any bugs and the difficulties balanced.
We've heard that Miami is featured in the game. Can you tell us what other cities are featured in Driv3r?
We've got 3 cities in Driv3r. There's it starts off in Miami, which was that was an easy choice for us because Miami, of course, was in Driv1, and that's Tanner's home. We then were looking for some more diversity, so we went to Nice in France and then Istanbul in Turkey. And basically to create them we had to send a team to each of these cities, and just took thousands and thousands, tens of thousands actually over the entire project, of photographs from these cities, and put the cities together, hundreds and hundreds of man hours, using our own tools that were built here in-house.
The vehicles are obviously a big part of the game. How many different types of vehicles are in Driv3r?
There's around 70 vehicles that you can drive. Pretty much anything that's driving around you can get into, and it ranges from normal cars and vans and trucks and so on. But there's some more bizarre things. There's larger trucks, a fully articulated truck in there, so you're driving around in the cab, and if you reverse up to a trailer section, you can couple up, and then that forms a fully articulated truck. It's all vehicles as well that you could have a chase in.
We hear the main character can now take control of boats and motorcycles. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
We put bikes and boats in there because we're in Miami, we're in Nice and we're in Istanbul, and all three cities feature a lot of water, and so the boats are useful for getting around. Boats are a pretty famous part of Miami as well. It was a lot of work to get the bike to handle in the same way as the cars do, in terms of being very fun to chuck around, and you can do the equivalent of a handbrake turn, lock the rear wheel and do a 180, which in reality would probably throw you off the bike. But the whole thing that we're looking for here is consistency and getting things that look good. So you can shift your weight on the bike, so you can pull wheelies and do endos or stoppies. But they have different qualities. So the bikes, for example, they're quicker, they're more nimble than the cars. The disadvantage of the bike, of course, is that if you crash, you come off the bike. So you have to take time in coming back to the bike, picking it up, getting back on the bike, which you don't have to do in the car.
Can you tell us more about the weapons that are featured throughout the game?
The guns that we've given you range from simple handguns, pistols. There's a couple of pistols, there's a silenced pistol, machine guns that are the shoulder-mounted, AK-47s, M16, those kind of things. Little submachine guns, the very fast, rapid-firing mini submachine guns, and there's also there's a shotgun in there as well, and a grenade launcher, which is quite good fun as well, because that runs through the physics engine, and you chuck a grenade underneath a car and the car blows up into a million pieces. From a technical point of view, we put a lot of effort into spraying cars with bullet holes, spraying the scenery with bullet holes as well, so you actually get a feeling of creating a lot of damage with the guns.
The damage is a big part of the game. Can you tell us a little bit more about the damage? Is it pretty much similar to Driv3r and Driv3r?
The smashable stuff in the game doesn't do a damage to you, so smashing through cans and pretty much anything that doesn't look too solid, you can smash through. It doesn't damage the car. It's kind of a visual effect. It looks quite nice when you smash through tables and chairs. To do damage to the car, you have to hit something really solid, like a tree or a building. And the damage modelling actually is very advanced. It's a lot more advanced than the system we had for Stuntman. We model the whole car, the shell, not just the shell, but the chassis and the subframe as well. And as the car collides with things, it crushes the panels on the car, but in a very realistic manner. So if you hit a car at an angle, it actually crushes the car into an angle at the front, pops the hood up, and other things can happen, like the bumper can hang off the car and scrape along the road. The hood and the trunk can bounce along, hinge, the doors hinge, and they're all real-world physical objects as well. So if you open the door, you can actually reverse against a tree and get the tree to wrench the door off. And then that door lies on the ground, and if you drive over the door, it's a proper physical object, and the car bounces over it with the suspension reacting.
The music's obviously another big feature and another big part of the experience. Can you tell us about the actual sound and music of the game?
We've approached the soundtrack in Driv3r very differently to most other games, in that we're licensing tracks, but we're applying these tracks to the cutscene elements of the game, not to the game itself when you're driving around.